Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at First Order in the Heroic HAAT raid. This is going to be a video of a Phase 4 solo with a full First Order team with a Kylo Ren Unmasked lead. But beyond that, we're going to talk a little bit about the mods to run on your First Order in the HAAT raid. We'll also talk about their solo potential, whether or not you can auto with them, and what other viabilities they have in other phases. But first, if you are looking for some more information about First Order and you want to talk to some experts, click on down into the video description. There's a link to the First Order Discord server. Definitely go check it out. They've got a lot of useful information over there, a lot of tips and tricks. So definitely go check that out if you want some help as well with your First Order characters. But let's go ahead and get into the mods on these guys, and then we will go from there. First up, we have Kylo Ren Unmasked. He's going to be the leader for your squad. And for his mods, you do want to have him focusing on some crit chance. So on his triangle, you see there's the 12% crit chance instead of crit damage. He has a very low base crit chance, but you do want him to have at least a high, decent amount of crit chance because he's going to be moving often, and whenever he scores a critical hit, he's going to gain turn meter, and through that he's going to be able to taunt and regenerate his protection. So you need to make sure that he can move fast, and that's why you also have the speed secondaries on his mods. You can see he's running 196 speed in this mod setup, but with his leadership that comes out to 226. So with all of that, you do want to make sure you can get some nice speed secondaries on him, and also focus on some crit chance for him as well. For his abilities, you will want the Zeta on his leadership, Merciless Pursuit. You don't need to worry about the Zeta for Scarred. That's more of a PvP-oriented Zeta. Next up, we have the other Kylo Ren. He is also going to be in this team, and for his mods, crit chance and crit damage is how you want to go. He will not be able to critically hit on his Lash Out ability, which is the ability you always want to be using with him, but he gains bonus damage on it based on the amount of crit damage he has, so still stacking up that crit damage for him is great. That's why you have the crit damage triangle for him, but making sure you get speed on the arrow is also great. Making sure you get lots of speed secondaries on his mods is what's going to be vital here, because you need him going very often for that turn meter boost on his Lash Out ability. But we will go into more detail about the strategy. But for now, just worry about getting the speed secondaries stacked up nicely on his mods. And then for his Zeta on Outrage, you do not need to worry about that. He's going to get plenty of protection regeneration on his own under a Kylo Ren Unmasked lead. For First Order Officer, you need him to go as fast as you possibly can. That means throwing your very best speed mods on him. He is basically the engine for your First Order team. Without him, you're not going to be able to be successful in the Heroic HAAT raid. So for him, making sure he goes as fast as you possibly can get him is what you need to do. That means if you need to sacrifice some speed mods on some other characters, by all means do that. For his mods, you really don't have to worry about the primary stats on them. You just have to make sure that you have the best speed secondaries on him. And of course you want speed on the arrow as well. And for his abilities, you will want the Omegas on all of them. This gives him more damage. This means he can move faster. It gives out more bonus buffs. There's a lot of things that his Omega abilities bring to the table. So you need these Omegas on him. There's no question about it. For First Order Executioner, for his mod sets, I like to run Health as a secondary mod set because he gains bonus offense equal to 5% of his max health. So stacking up that health on him is a great way to boost his damage. Of course, you will want crit damage on him. He's going to be landing critical hits very, very often once you mega his abilities. So making sure you stack up that crit damage is great here. For his cross mod, you can see I've got bonus health instead of bonus offense. That's great here because that means you can still stack up that bonus offense. So you don't have to worry about getting bonus offense on that cross. Health works just as well. And then for his circle, stacking up health instead of protection there is another great way to get some bonus damage in for him. But really making sure you get some nice speed secondaries on him, making sure he goes fast, and stacking up his health is a great way to mod out this guy. And then finally, we have Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot. Crit chance and crit damage for him as well. Speed secondaries, kind of a repeating pattern here for these guys, making sure they can go fast, making sure they land critical hits and do a lot of damage when they land those critical hits. That is all key here. And of course, for his abilities, you don't have to get the Omega on his final ability because it just causes a stun with the attacks from First Order allies. So you don't really need it, but making sure you get the Omega on his drum fire for the speed up, and then the Omega for his basic attack to make sure he applies the defense down. Both of those Omegas are something you really want to invest in to make sure this guy really works in your First Order team for the Heroic HAAT raid. Now, you're probably looking at this cast of characters and wondering which characters you can replace, and unfortunately the only one that is expendable in this team is the Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot. The only way you can replace him is if you have the Zeta unique on your First Order Stormtrooper, and you can put him into this team. If you don't have the unique Zeta for Stormtrooper, then don't even bother with it for this team. Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot is going to be better in every other way. So basically, you really only have the TIE pilot that you can replace here, and that's only if you have unique Zeta for Stormtrooper. So really at that point, it's not even really comparable. It's one less Zeta that you have to worry about, and it's for a character that you don't have to really worry about dumping a lot of Carbontes into. For the overall strategy for this team, you'll see that I have both Kylo Rens end up stunning both B2 droids, and this is because that means I can then do some damage to the turrets and ignore their AoE dispel at least for a little while. And the one thing that you're going to notice is at the very beginning of the fight, you're not going to be dealing a lot of damage to the tank during the topples, but that's going to change as the health builds up on the First Order Executioner, and he starts dealing out a lot more damage. You'll see he'll gain a lot more bonus health, and at one point in this fight, he actually gets hit by the Firestorm without any buffs on, and he takes 99 damage, and he basically just kind of shrugs it off and just keeps going and trucking along and just absolutely murdering everything. So stun the B2s at the beginning, start taking down the tank and the turrets, and then start using the special from Kylo Ren Unmasked to deal massive damage to a stun target. Use the other characters to deal some damage to the other B2, and then just kind of whittle down the tank and then start dealing damage. Once you get past the second or third topple, you'll be able to clear pretty easily without having to worry about the tank ever moving. So with the First Order Officer, he has his pinning shot ability where it removes turn meter from the target enemy and then gives bonus turn meter if that target lost the turn meter, but then also reduces the cooldown of all First Order allies by 1. Always use this ability when it's off cooldown. If it's still going to hit a target that won't lose turn meter like the tank, it will still reduce the cooldowns for your First Order allies. So getting that pinning shot in as soon as you can to get those cooldown reductions is vital. And then for his marching orders, always give that to the First Order Executioner. That gives him offense up, also gives him an advantage, and then he'll be able to land more critical hits, deal more damage, and since he's going to be the mainstay of your damage for this team, you want him going as fast as you can and making sure he gets as much damage in as possible. And you'll see at the final damage screen that for this team that does 12.4 million damage, First Order Executioner is responsible for over 10 million of the damage overall for this team. Now, for Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot, what makes him so good here is the presence of First Order Executioner, and really, without Executioner, you really don't see the full potential of the Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot, and it's what's in the kit for the TIE Pilot that makes him so good and makes him work so well with the Executioner. And the first thing up is his special ability Drumfire, where he gives all First Order allies speed up for 2 turns. And this is great because you already have the 30 bonus speed from the Kylo Ren Unmasked lead, and now you're getting another 25% bonus speed onto all your First Order allies on top of that. But then also you have a second ability where he calls in a First Order ally to assist, and basically always use your First Order Executioner here. And this is because that your Executioner is almost always going to crit, and whenever his First Order Executioner crits, he gives all First Order allies 10% turn meter. So all this combines together really well between these two characters. You get a lot of damage, you get a lot of speed up with First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot, and then you also get the bonus turn meter from the crits from First Order Executioner, or Panda as I like to call him. So both these characters work great together. Always use them together if you can, especially in areas like territory battles or territory wars. Now, what you have to be careful of is the timing of the speed up from the TIE Fighter Pilot, because whenever the tank comes back up, you'll see that he can deal massive damage to someone that does not have any buffs, and if it's not Panda, they're pretty much going to die. And you'll see that I end up losing TIE Fighter Pilot about 3 or 4 turns before the end because I miscalculated some things. So making sure you have that speed up from him is always nice here, but also making sure you apply defense down to the main tank is going to be great as well, because if the main tank has defense down when the pilot uses his basic attack, he is then going to gain advantage for the next turn. And what you can use there is then combine it with Drumfire again, where each target that's critically hit gains defense down for 2 turns. So getting the advantage from him to then follow up with his AoE also gives a lot of defense down, which then means that he has the chance to get more advantage for him and keep him safe. So making sure you use him wisely and count the buffs, and making sure you use the speed up from Drumfire at the best time is always key here. But once you get defense down on that tank, you're going to be a lot safer, and making sure that you can use some of his other abilities so that you can gain advantage if you need to. But making sure that you at least have a buff on him is the tricky part for this. The other characters will be able to move just fine on their own. Kylo Ren Unmasked is always going to be taunting. First Order Officer is always going to have tenacity up from his marching orders, and making sure you obviously give marching orders to First Order Executioner. And then the other Kylo Ren is always going to have counter from using his Lash Out ability. So all these characters are going to have a lot of potential on their own for getting buffs outside of Special Special Forces TIE Fighter pilot, so making sure you always be careful with him and just pay attention to his buff duration is what's going to be great here. Now, going back to First Order Executioner, like I said before, his damage is going to start off low at first. You'll see the first couple of topples only deal 2 or 3% damage, but as the fight goes on, you'll see he starts stacking up a lot of damage. At the very end, his death sentence deals over 200,000 damage, so that's a lot of damage for him that he just stacks up because of that bonus health. You do need to be careful and making sure that he doesn't kill too many targets, but once you get to a certain point, I just started using his basic attacks and just knocking out the turrets and the B2 droids, and then it just kind of went from there. It was easy topples, lots of damage potential for him. So at the beginning, just kind of start ramping up his damage quickly, make sure he doesn't kill anybody too often, but making sure that he just gets that damage in. And if he does kill someone, it's fine. He's going to reset the damage bonus from death sentence, but the max health from his unique is not going to reset in that case. So you're not going to have to worry about him losing all of his damage anytime he kills someone. He's still going to be able to do plenty of damage on his own. So don't really worry about having him kill someone and thinking that your damage is going to reset. You'll be fine just on your own. So that's pretty much it for the strategy for this fight. There's just watching the buffs from Special Forces TIE Fighter pilot, making sure you call in the assist between him and First Order Officer, that you call in the assist with First Order Executioner, and just making sure that you have him going as often as you can. And of course, you have the lash out from Kylo Ren. He will give 25% Terminator to First Order allies, and then another 25% to allies that have advantage. So because First Order Executioner is almost always going to have advantage thanks to his basic ability, this means that you're going to be getting almost always 50% Terminator on First Order Executioner. Again, another way to really speed him up. And basically, everyone here is here just to make sure that Executioner moves faster, and Kylo Ren Unmasked just kind of absorbs all the taunts and the damage from the turrets on his own. Now, one other final point to bring out here is, if you're looking at viability for the phases of the raids here, I am currently working on trying out a First Order team that can supposedly solo Phase 3 and Phase 4 and do at least a couple million damage in Phase 2 as well. So you're looking at a team that could push 30 million damage. I'm still working on it. It's going to be a while before I can finally get a good run in and get it fully tested out. So keep an eye out for that. But if you're also wondering about if you can use this team on auto, the answer to that is unfortunately no, because the Kylo Ren AI is still broken where he will not use his lash out ability unless there's 2 or more targets present, at which point it counts as an AoE. So he only uses that as an AoE ability, which is kind of unfortunate, and I really wish CG would kind of fix that. It would make him a little bit more viable and also really help make this team usable and auto for the raid. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask down below. I'll do what I can. Again, there's a link to the First Order Discord server in the video description. Definitely go check that place out. As always, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. To all of my minions out there, thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.